Welcome to the Go Reflect Yourself podcast, bringing you real strategies to cultivate the life and business of your dreams, full of freedom and fulfillment, starting from the inside out. Working hard and staying busy will only get you so far. To truly become happy, content, and who you're meant to be, we have to move beyond physical capacities and begin to look from within. We have to change our thoughts and our mindset into our most powerful assets, transforming you to take inspired action so you can become a better version of yourself and to have the life of your dreams. Welcome to another episode of Go Reflect
You are stronger
Yourself.
than you believe.
My name
You
is
have
Heather
greater
J.
powers
Crider,
than you know.
and I'm your host, and I'm so excited you're here. There's absolutely so much to talk about. It's so hard to decide in each episode, really the goal and the idea, and hopefully as you're staying with us for each episode that it's building and it's making sense. And if not, I'd like to know. And if it is, I'd like to know that too. I really want to hear from you of what you want, what you need, what's working, what's not. But today, I'd like to talk about why. Why should you take time to reflect? And what does that even mean? Why do it? What reflection really is? The truth is it's different for everybody. But if we really just strip it down and think about it for a few minutes, the scary truth is we live in such a fast-paced world. Our society is in a state of go, 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 hurry, do this, do that, get here, get there, hustle and bustle and being busy. That's one of my pet peeves, and I feel very confident I've already talked about that. And I know I'll talk about that again, so forgive me. And because I feel so adamant that this word busy, what does that even mean? Just by having something to do, I'm so busy. Yeah, we all are. That's life. But does that really mean anything? It's a choice. And busy doesn't mean successful. Busy doesn't mean productive. But that's what we've been taught in our world, to just be busy, 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 doing something, having to be on the move. And I'm exhausted thinking about it. I'm exhausted talking about it. And that's really the truth, is it's just downright exhausting. And we don't take enough time to understand what that means for us, to understand what our life is, and to think about where we're going, where we've been, what we're doing. Italians have a phrase called the sweetness of doing nothing, dolce far niente. The sweetness of doing nothing. I'm sure I butchered the pronunciation. But how great is that when you really think about it? The sweetness of doing nothing. Most of us, though, when we hear that, we think, oh, that sounds great, but that's impossible. Doing nothing would be so boring. Doing nothing's impossible. Or I would be unproductive or lazy if I were to do nothing. Or if it weren't for me and if I just did nothing, nothing would get done. I wouldn't be successful. Who would do this and who would stress and who would worry? And that's really the truth, is who would worry if you just did nothing? Or we don't deserve to do nothing. I mean, just think about that for a second, how your mind immediately, when you think of doing nothing, what that immediately means to you. It might shock you and be a little disappointing of what that might mean. But the truth is, when we allow ourselves the true opportunity to do nothing, our brains fire in a way that catapults us into places that we can't even describe. It catapults us into good things, creative things, fun places, exciting places, mindful places, relaxing places. God forbid we actually learn how to relax for a minute or two. But that's the truth, is it puts us really in a mode of creativity and a mode of relaxation that help us be better versions. And the reason is because when we are able to do nothing, or we have the opportunity to relax, not only do our cortisol levels decrease, which the cortisol is the chemical that gets released that keeps us in this state of protection for that fight or flight. It's that combat. Because we're so stressed, we always have this overload of cortisol. But when we are able to relax or do nothing, we have these good chemicals, and those get improved and released. It's the endorphins, the oxytocin, the serotonin, and dopamine. These are the good chemicals that help us stay calm and peaceful and have a clearer mind and happier. That's why you hear about the endorphin of exercise or the runner's high, or call it what you will. Exercise is so very important because it helps release those things. But our serotonin levels get boosted because of relaxation. And in true American style, we don't know what that is. We just don't. The thought itself of dolce far niente, or the sweetness of doing nothing, the thought of that in and itself causes us to have conflict and stress. And it creates us and forces us to stay in this mode of being busy. It does not allow us to be as productive as we like to think we are. This whole "I'm so busy" does not mean a hill of beans, really, if you think about it. But it certainly doesn't mean productive. And because we've trained ourselves, and I realize I'm using these big generalizations of we and us, but the truth is our bigger culture, our American culture. And if you're in a entrepreneurial or a managerial role or in a corporate role, or just this stress and this idea of busy, that's just what we've been taught. And it's not true. It's not true. I'm here to tell you that right now. It's a bunch of hooey. But that busy mode and not allowing us to be, despite our very hard efforts, when we try to remain in this busy, productive state, we can't grow and we can't be better versions and we can't actually progress. And that's why reflection is so important. But think about this for a second. Think about if it's ever happened to you. I know it's happened to me, but think about why so many people get sick when they go on vacations. When they go or they come back and they get sick. Their immune system gets attacked quickly and they blame germs of a plane or the change of environment. And yes, those things obviously do contribute to getting sick. But partially it's because our immune systems do get attacked easier. The reality is we just don't know how to relax. And the moment we go on vacation, we're maybe in a mode of able to relax easier, and those cortisol levels start to drop, and those other feel good and oxytocin chemicals do kick in. Our cortisol and our bodies actually don't know how to react to that. And that's why our immune system gets taxed. And that is a big reason why we get sick. And I call it the sickness of bliss. And we don't know how to relax on a normal basis. And when we do relax on a very, very limited basis, maybe 2 or 3 days a year, or I mean, you think about the holidays even. Holidays are typically stressful, yeah, of course, for many reasons. And I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But it's also when you're winding down and you're giving yourself, your body a time to relax. It's the sickness of bliss. And how sad is that, though? We go on a well-deserved vacation and all of a sudden our bodies freak out because we don't know what to do. We're not as stressed as we normally are. We don't know how to stay in a mode where we're not stressed out all the time. And we get sick. And it makes me laugh and cry and be angry all at the same time. Because why? There's so many other countries and cultures that don't experience this. And I find it funny when Italians make fun of Americans for that reason, because we just don't know how. So this, among many reasons, is one of the reason to take time to reflect reflect each and every day, to take time to understand And reflection to many people can sound like spending hours in meditation. And as I've said before, if you have time and the luxury to spend hours in meditation, that's great. Go for it and do it. And I hope you can. But the truth is we don't. We don't have the luxury of hours in meditation, nor do we have to. We don't have to spend hours a day in reflective meditation to find peace and joy or to just reflect. And by the way, when I say things like reflection and fulfillment and finding inner peace, what I'm talking about is all of those things. Reflection and fulfillment really is about finding inner peace, joy, and fulfillment in our everyday lives, which leads us to happiness, leads us to being more productive and happier and, yes, and more wealth. Because how great are all of those things? And most people would say, if I do this then, or when I do this then, or if I could only win the lottery, I'd be so happy. Or if I only could have all my stress taken away, then I'll be happy. Or when I get this big promotion, then I can relax because my financial situation can change. Or when this project is completed, then I can relax. Or then these things will happen. And maybe not. But it's really the opposite way to think and behave, actually, because all this is doing is working against us. It's working against our true fulfillment and ability to find joy and happiness. And don't get me wrong, I've been there. I know all about the pressures of real life. And I've had many discussions with friends and family about what reality is. And the truth is, I've spent so much time being a single mom, I very well know the reality of life. I know the stress of when bills are due, and I know the stress of having all of the burden of responsibility on your shoulders, and worried about paying for things, and worried about time when kids' activities are 23, seems like 23 of the 24 hours of the day. Or how am I going to get everything done? Or I'm one person, or I'm in debt up to my eyeballs. How can reality be such a blissful, joyful place? I get all these things because I've been there. And trust me, I know how hard it is to be in rock bottom. And I've hit rock bottom more than once, truthfully. And it's hard when you're in rock bottom to say, how can I find my way out? How can there possibly be any bliss or joy? If I'm in rock bottom and I've got all this debt and stress and worry and responsibility, or I'm the leader of an organization, nobody understands my worries, or I'm in charge of this project, or I'm an independent entrepreneur, or whatever, insert your situation in that phrase of, how can I be blissful and find joy and inner peace among all this chaos and reality of life? And that's the truth. And I know this because I've been there. That's even a bigger reason why it's so important to take time. And I've wrestled with it, with my own inner mind and inner demons. And I do every day. But that's why I know better than most how important reflecting is and taking time to clear the mind. Because here's the secret. It's a simple secret. And because of how complex we make things, and truthfully, I'm getting very emotional right now just thinking about it, thinking about all the hills and valleys I've personally been through, and all the moments where I've had to kind of talk myself off the ledge figuratively and sometimes literally. And I've been there and thinking about, how could I possibly find joy in these moments? How can I possibly think of what's good when everything around me is so chaotic and bad? I've thought that. And really the simple reality is, if we strip it down and we give ourselves some air and some time The secret is when we unlock that creativity and we unlock giving ourselves some breathing room. That's when things start happening. They just do. That's when we have more success and more freedom and more joy, more money, more happiness, more fulfillment, more contentment, more confidence, more clarity. All of it. It just starts happening. It's so hard to believe that when you're down in the trenches and when you're worried about bills, or you're worried about you're not sleeping because you've got the burden of the world on your shoulders. You've got family. You're the provider. You're the leader. You're the one that's supposed to come up with the ideas. You're the one that's supposed to move a company from X to Y. I get it. Those are the moments where you want clarity. Those are the moments where you want assurance and confidence and belief. And that's when it's the hardest to dig down and find, when you're in those trenches. There's a book. There's many, many books. And I know I've said this before. There's so many books, but I'm looking in my office trying to find it right now. And it talks about belief and digging your trenches. And it talks about the power of your mind and the power of your thoughts. And that's what reflection is really about, is your thoughts and understanding what you're thinking. It's really about harnessing your thoughts, because you constantly have a choice. All meditation is about is controlling your thoughts. One of the talks, and really what this entire podcast is about, is what you think matters. Not only in you as a person, that you matter, because you do, we all do, but what you think and say to yourself matters. And that's what reflection's about. That's what meditation's about. It's about taking a moment and listening and saying, hey, what's going on up here? What are these thoughts going around? Because we all have a choice. And when you're down in those trenches and you don't believe, that's when you have to acknowledge what's this powerful statement in your mind. Are you going to give up? Or are you going to climb? Are you going to say, I'm great? And it's hard when you're down in a well. It's hard when you're in rock bottom to say, I'm great. It's easier to compare and to look at other people and to look at all the other things that people have achieved. But the truth is who cares? Comparing gets you nowhere. And we all have struggles. Even the people that you envy the most, or you think you envy the most, doesn't mean they have fulfillment and joy. Maybe on the outside it might look like it. And if that's true, bless them. Say, I'm great. You've got a mansion and a car that you love, and your family looks like it's a perfect family, or you're successful. That's great. I bless you. Because guess what? I'm capable of that and more, and to be more fulfilled. But the truth is we don't know. We don't know really what other people's thoughts are and what they say to themselves and what they see when they look in the mirror. And that's what I want for you. That's what I want for me. Is I want you to look in the mirror and smile and to say, you're fantastic. And to acknowledge, sometimes these negative things are going to crop up, and I'm going to acknowledge them, and I'm going to control them, and I'm going to change them. Because reflecting can actually be the key to untangle some of life's most difficult and critical, complex problems. When things really seem hopeless, or we seem so stressed that there's no other way. These are all the signs to learn, to really, really learn that art of reflection. Because that art of reflection, that's what's going to take you places. Because that's when we start allowing that power to come in and entangle those things. So let's go back for a second to the question, what is reflection? And yeah, for many people, it means different things, but it's truly about taking a breath, taking a moment, asking yourself, asking questions, and listening. Well, that's hard to do, right? We've got two ears and one mouth for a reason. Most people don't know that. But to listen to what you're saying, to listen to those thoughts that are in your mind, to listen to those things that are in your heart, to listen to what comes out of your mouth, and learn how we can go further, much further, if we did listen more to our intuition and trust our intuition. Reflection's not about beating yourself up. It's not about saying, oh my gosh, I'm so stupid because I haven't done this, or I'm so dumb because I said that, or it's not about creating more thoughts that don't serve you. It's an opportunity to listen to what those thoughts are and to say, okay, that was a moment I shouldn't have said that. And it's one of the things I'm proud of when I reflect back on moments that I'm not proud of as a parent. And we all have them, right? We have moments every day that we're not particularly proud of. But those aren't moments to beat ourselves up for. Those are moments of opportunity to grow. But that's one of the things I am proud of as a parent. Most of the time, I can go back to my kids and I can say, oh, I'm not proud of how I handled this situation, and this is why. I'm not proud of what I said, and this is why. Or I made a mistake. And I think being vulnerable and being honest with your children is huge. But it's also a very powerful thing when you're honest and vulnerable with yourself. Because it's an opportunity to really listen and to grow and to become a better version of ourselves. And that's what reflection really is. It's acknowledging where we're at. It's acknowledging our thoughts at that moment and saying, okay, I might need to work on this. Or that's a thought that does not serve me very well. It's also about offering some gratitude and acknowledgement that the very small things that are going right in your life from every angle need to be acknowledged. That's what's beautiful about the brain. It cannot designate between big and small victories. By just saying, I'm happy and grateful today that I was able to acknowledge something I did well. Or I'm happy and grateful today that I made somebody smile, or I'm happy and grateful. And I know I've talked about these already before in this podcast and prior podcasts, but reflection isn't fancy. It's truly a way to be mindful, and it's a fancy way, really, of just saying stop and think and be mindful. And yes, it does include, or it can include, meditation. For most people, meditation can be a very scary and woo-woo, and only monks or hippies do meditation, and that's just not true. Meditation doesn't have to be sitting crisscross for hours. It could be a 10-minute, just a mindful exercise. It could be a 10-minute just staring at the wind, blowing the trees, and just listening, being present to all your senses, learning to acknowledge. Meditation really can open up your mind, and I'll talk about that in future, of what that really means. And I'm so excited of some things that are coming in the future that I'll talk about later. But it all works together, because meditation leads to a clearer mind, which leads to understanding our thoughts, which leads to giving us power to choose more productive ways of thinking. And it chooses an ability to open our mind to have more creative and to be able to put things in a perspective where we can act on in a positive way that moves us forward. It puts us in a way that we understand clearer and understand in a perspective where, hey, maybe I'm on a path that doesn't serve me. My gut really tells me I want to be doing this, but I'm doing that. Maybe you're a teacher and you love it. Then that's great. It gives you more confidence and validation of that. Maybe you're a teacher and you hate it. Maybe you're a teacher only because of June, July, and August, but the other 9 months a year, you're miserable. Maybe it's a time to step back and think about that. It doesn't mean that you change your entire life, but maybe there's some things that you can do on a more consistent basis that can still lead you to be more productive, happier, and fulfilled. So meditation and reflection and all these things I'm talking about doesn't mean anything's bad. It certainly means you can have more. You can have more. You can be a better version of yourself. And that's what it's about. The goal of reflection is to listen to yourself and to acknowledge all of those parts of yourself, the good and the bad and the ugly. The goal of truly reflecting is to understand and to build on those things that are good, to build on those things that are going well and that are right in your life. And ask yourself, hey, why am I so lucky? Why am I so fortunate to be here right now? And yeah, again, if we go back, if we're in the bottom of the barrel, if we're in the trenches and we're thinking there's no way out, or we're thinking everything sucks, or right there in and of itself, that's an opportunity to change your perspective. Look at any possible nugget of positivity. And if you can't find any in that moment, I would say the fact, if you can even listen to the words you're saying, if you can listen and acknowledge those words first, that's a positive thing. And that's reflecting in the right way. Just acknowledging that you think there's no way out. That's a good thing. May not seem like it, but it is. But that's what it's all about. Reflecting on where we're at right now. Meeting us where we're at the moment, the good, the bad, the ugly. And you can always, always find something positive in that moment. Maybe you're dead tired and you haven't slept for 36 hours, but I guarantee there's something good that you can find. Maybe you have a nice glass of iced tea to refresh you. That's good. Maybe the sun's shining and the breeze is blowing in your face. That's good. So find it. Find those things. The whole point of reflection is to have inner peace, to truly have inner peace and joy and happiness. Because when that happens, guess what? We have less stress. We have less stress and more peace. We worry less. And we have more confidence. How fun is that? We have less guilt and more assurance. The whole point of reflection is to have more health and vibrance, to have more giddy up in our step. Because when you do that, when you have more giddy up in your step and you have more confidence and assurance and peace, it shows, you glow. You have a physical, outer and inner attraction. And that's when success starts showing up more. And yes, that's when you'll have less debt and more money. Because it all works together and it's a domino effect. And by the way, with a little perspective and more positivity, you can truly achieve these things. I feel like today I've just kind of gotten on a soapbox. So I hope you followed my soapbox. And now it's time for the Go Reflect Yourself tip of the day. Decide what reflection really means to you and find a word for it. Maybe it's reflection. Maybe it's meditation. Maybe it's mindfulness. Maybe it's joy, peace. But find that. It's like a trigger word of when you have as Zig Ziglar would say, the stinking thinking. What's that trigger to you? What's the trigger of my mind has gone in a spiral of negativity? Come up with a word that triggers so you can come back to the other side and you can make a choice. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes that's really the first step. And I'm going to harp on the first step for a while here because it's very important. Acknowledging that your mind has wandered. In meditation, it's called noting. When we breathe in, we breathe out, we note, we physically are really trying to concentrate on the breathing. And that's noting it. And that's a conscious effort because most of the times our minds wander. And we start thinking about what we got to do. We got to think about the things we should be doing, things we haven't done, whatever. Thinking about the weather, thinking about my back hurts, thinking about I'm hungry, whatever it is. But we go back to noting our breath. Because then all those other things just kind of float away. But first we have to acknowledge that our mind is wandering. And in reflection and in change and in really moving anything forward, that's the first step, is acknowledging, this is my, it's not even an oops, that's a bad way of putting it. It's okay, it's there. It's shining a spotlight on, okay, my mind's wandering. I just said this, or that was a thought. It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. If I think, I'm so stupid, I shouldn't have said that. Well, don't say you're stupid for saying it's stupid. It's a thought. Doesn't mean that's you. Your thoughts aren't you. Your thoughts are things. Your thoughts are thoughts. You're the controller of your thoughts. It doesn't mean your thoughts are you. It doesn't mean you're stupid. See how that goes in just this vicious circle. But acknowledging it is the first key of, I thought that. Okay, that's what I thought. That's what my thought was. Acknowledging it is always the first key. And that's really the point of being able to change and move in reflection, is shining a spotlight on that. But that's why I think coming up with a trigger word for you, it could be more mindful. It could be vision. It could be determination. It could be success. It could be caution. It could be radical. It could be, I don't know, you come up with yours. It could be joy. It could be search. It could be whatever. But maybe when you're noting and you're acknowledging these thoughts that you have, that's the first thing. That is, when you start acknowledging it and then you want to shift your mind to maybe be more focused. And I'll show you techniques as we go on of really how to clear your mind and how to have more focus. But this is a good first step. It's a good first step of a trigger word of, my mind's not serving me right now. And here's a trigger word that's going to help me get it back on track. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Go Reflect Yourself. For more inspired action or to stay in touch, head on over to goreflectyourself.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at #HeatherJCrider or heatherjcrider.com. Until next time, this is Heather J. Crider challenging you to go reflect yourself.